She will be stepping back inside the cage. Bellator 291, February 25th. First time back inside the cage in a little bit of time. Hopefully, things go according to plan this time. She's facing a not so different foe in Sinead Kavanagh, who she's faced before. She is Janay Harding. Janay, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks, Jeremy. Thanks for having me, as usual.
Yeah, it's always fun to shoot the shit. You obviously had a bit of time away from the sport that I had obviously didn't heal up the way you thought it was going to. Rocking the glasses now, like we talked about the last time. Just talk about the whole eye sort of journey for you that you went on since the last time we spoke.
Yeah, it sort of actually started before I was matched up for that last fight, and I was in San Diego. I ended up having a detached retina. We spoke about that on our last interview, and I got my original surgery in just before Christmas at the end of 2021. And then maybe like a month or so later, I got matched up for the Bellator Hawaii card and fought Diana Silva. And then I returned back to Australia, and then I had to get another surgery. Sorry. So there was and then there was like one in between that as well. Not necessarily a surgery, but like more of a procedure. So yeah, there was a few things, and it was just like a lot of adjustments, having to obviously now adapt to the glasses, and I mean, in due time, maybe like another three, probably not that far away actually. Now, like another 3 months or so, I could definitely look at the idea of a contact, because it is just for one eye. So yeah, everything's healing well now, but definitely think that I sort of rushed the process a little bit and maybe expected it to be a little bit different. I guess I didn't know what to expect with an injury. I have been really lucky with injuries, but an injury like this one that affects your vision obviously has a lot of like general side effects, and that sort of, I think, affected just how active I wanted to be coming back off the pandemic and everything like that, and just changed the course of the last year.
Definitely. And I know the last time we spoke, you like you said, you flew back to Australia. There was the eye surgery planned for when you returned, but you were unsure of how quickly that was all going to happen. So following the last fight, when you returned to Australia, how quickly were you able to get in to get the procedure done?
It wasn't as quick as I had hoped. I'm very lucky to live in a country like Australia, where I was living, and now in New Zealand. But in countries like this, where we can go through the public system, and ultimately I got two major surgeries for $0. It is pretty good, but for that reason, I did have to wait a little bit longer. I mean, I spoke to my ophthalmologist about it before I left, and he's just kind of was playing it by ear. He did want me to get it before I left, but I obviously decided against it. I wanted to fight first and then get the surgery. So I sort of bartered with him a little bit in that sense. And then when I got back, we just had to get it as soon as I possibly could, which was like maybe, I think it was, I got pushed back like once or twice too, which was really irritating. Because like somebody had COVID, or there was also like the other issues that kind of just like literally the day of or something, I think one morning, like the first initial date that they gave me, and so then that had to get pushed back by another like 3 or 4 weeks or something. So it did kind of take a little while, but the positive thing, I guess, was that I could take some time eventually to have a break off, and then as soon as I could fly again, I got to come over to New Zealand and come visit and suss some things out for my eventual move here to Auckland.
Perfect. Now, we've spoken in the past as well. I know I keep saying that, but about your mental game and your maturity for the age that you are, with everything that's gone on in your career. How much of a setback was this for you mentally?
I think it was almost one of those things where I didn't even understand how much of a mental setback it was going to be until afterwards. I guess I was sort of playing everything by ear and just going through the process of the surgeries and the recovery, and it was like I said, like a situation that I was unfamiliar with. I haven't really been injured, and I've been in this sport. I've been in combat sports for like 18 years. I've been extremely lucky and fortunate to not have any major injuries, and then So I guess this one and just going through the process of like going to the hospital and having to take time off is just something in my brain that doesn't quite sit well with me. So, and it was like, wasn't even just like you can't, do upper body. It was like you can't sweat. So I couldn't even like go for brisk walks. Like it was a really big adjustment and definitely one of those things that I sort of recognize more afterwards. As much as you think you're mature, I'm sure everybody can relate to this, but like your 24-year-old self probably thought they were really mature, and now you look back on that 24-year-old self and you're like, wow, they didn't even really understand like the world yet. And that sort of kind of happened to me, I think, with this situation. It was one of the things that afterwards I was like, oh, I really kind of rushed or tried to rush my rehab and just getting back into the cage and everything, just because I think one of my coping mechanisms was like I really just wanted to get back in the cage. If I'm back in the cage, I'm not injured. Like mentally, I should be fine. It's not affecting anything, and for that reason, I rushed a lot of things. And in hindsight, I wish I hadn't.
Would you say that you had a lot of sleepless nights because of it? Not necessarily the injury, but you were like overthinking things?
I think there was just always that unknown that like I've always breezed through like the eye exams. Of course, I had perfect vision, like and if not, like I'd say above average vision. And so I guess I never really paid enough attention to what they were actually looking for. So therefore, it was just always like, can I even fight? Like, as much as this ophthalmologist is trying to support my decisions to continue my career of fighting, he doesn't know what they're looking for, and I don't know what they're looking for, so I can't even tell him. So could I just maybe like finish all these surgeries and then go to update my medicals and they basically fail me, and then where am I at that point? So I think that was the biggest thing. Just obviously, like, is this career ending? But for that reason, it was just a lot of unknown, and I mean, like, I'm familiar with Bisbing. I wouldn't say we're close or
Yeah.
anything, but like Bisbing, like Michael and Rebecca are great people, and I'd almost wish that like when I wasn't around him, I had asked him all these questions, but not in a million years did I think that the man sitting in front of me explaining a situation, I would then eventually have to experience myself. So that was like one of those things. I was like, who do I even ask about this stuff? Because obviously you've got great eye doctors, then you've got MMA people, and sometimes they don't cross over. Like, not all obviously eye doctors watch MMA or know like about the sport
Yeah.
in that aspect. So it was just like a lot of unknown, a lot of like unsure, and like, is this it or is this not it? Like, I honestly don't know. So I guess, yeah, that definitely played a lot on my mind, gave me a lot of headaches. And then just the fact that I was sitting there, obviously I'm sure like a lot of people have experienced injuries, like I'm just sitting there doing nothing, and I know that my opponents and the people in my division are working really hard. So that was hard after already doing that for the pandemic. So I was just sort of like, oh, is this ever going to end? Like,
Well, yeah, especially as someone as active as you are. I mean, like you said, you talked about Bisping. And I think the funny thing, I think I said this to you the last time we spoke, was, he had Jason Perillo there with him, and he would give him like a cough to say a certain thing. You're obviously only a few weeks out from this fight. Have you already done your medicals for it then? And was there worry going through these? Like, you are cleared to fight, correct?
yes, correct. I mean, and the crazy thing was for the last fight in Hawaii after the first surgery, my eye medicals were all in date. I had a physical, obviously, that I got cleared off, but the doctor is one of my friends in a sense. Like, not that he would have cleared me if I wasn't medically fit, as per se, but I think because I was just like, yeah, dude, like, it's fine. Like, I've got the other eye, everything's sweet. Like, it's all good. I'm training every day. It's not like I'm getting beaten up in sparring or anything, and I've lost a lot of ability, but then I knew that eventually I was going to have to cross this bridge of updating my eye medicals, and that's something that I did. I think it was like a week and a half ago, and I think just like low key, I just kept it very quiet that I was even going, but I was just obviously stressing that she just wasn't going to pass me, and um, I didn't even really tell my manager this, but I only passed by like one letter. So,
Wow.
um, and I don't even know if I really passed, to be honest. She just kind of, I was
Don't
really
say
nice
that.
to her. So, but like I know that I like fighting wise, sometimes the medicals don't always represent what makes you medically fit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's sort of like, just because there's so many letters and just because one of my eyes can't see a certain thing doesn't mean that I have. I mean, I've been training now for over a year since the first surgery, so it's not like I'm not unfamiliar with what it's like to get punched in the face with this new vision. So it's like I know that I can fight, and I can still fight to the same ability that I did before the injury, but of course you just don't know if from a medical perspective they're going to see it that way. So it was very daunting, and it's one of those things I guess is still plays on my mind, but it's one of those things that I don't even really think half my training partners even know that I have this injury. So that's
Well,
technically
yeah,
like a
it's not like you're
bonus.
walking into
I
the
have
gym
no idea.
announcing it.
Yeah, that too.
Hey
Yeah,
guys, look at
but
my new
you
glasses.
can't tell, like, because I don't always wear my glasses walking
No.
in. It's not like you can look at my eye and be like, oh,
After
that's left
surgery, you
eye, I can't
could,
see it.
but
Yeah, yeah. You can definitely tell. I can tell the difference, and I know
I
that
do see it a little bit.
yeah. I know that one of my friends just recently had a detached retina, and his wife, who I've known for a while as well, she was like, I can see what one is the eye, and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
that's interesting. But yeah, but it's like just one of those things, like I think I had a lot of great things working towards me getting back into the cage. To be honest, being obviously kind to people, but great medical system, great coaching advice, great ophthalmologist and surgeon, and then again meeting great people here in Auckland that helped me with my medicals. Again, I think that's all positive. I don't think anyone's bad at their job as per se. I don't think they're giving me any extra leeways, but they are working well with me and trusting that I know that what I'm doing in a sense. So that's good.
Definitely. Now that last fight, Diana Silva, obviously it was a decision loss. Things didn't go your way. I messaged you after, talked to you about it, and you said you watching it, you didn't even feel like yourself in there. And was that due to the eye, or like what was the case with that? Because have you watched it back again, or like what do you take away from that fight that you're obviously not going to do against Sinead?
Yeah, I guess it's one of those things again that I've sort of analyzed, and I think like I had put a lot of my attention and my efforts into getting into the cage and cutting the weight, and because of the little layoff and stuff, and I had like more weight to lose than I usually do. Featherweight is usually an extremely easy cut for me, but this time I had to put a lot of energy into it, which I haven't done in a very long time since I fought in bantamweight, basically, and therefore I kind of consumed my mind with those things rather than what was in front of me, and that was the injury, the fight itself, and then the fact that I had another surgery planned for straight after. And so I guess when you know that in the back of your mind, like that second surgery was extremely integral for me to maintain my vision at all in the left eye. Obviously, the glasses are doing their thing, so but to even be able to have glasses, you need to have a little bit of sight in there. So I really needed that second surgery, and I knew it was really important. So I think like subconsciously I was protecting the eye and not, triggering at my usual self. I mean,
Yeah.
like a lot of things had changed. Like you get injured and you lose something, but when you lose something like your vision, like obviously that's dire consequences for something that I've given a lot to. I've given a lot to this sport, but I hadn't given my vision yet, or even like other physical attributes. So I guess that was just a big learning curve for me, and it definitely withheld, I think, not my confidence as per se, but just like me backing myself and getting into the brawls that I have obviously been
That's
in,
what
and
I
I,
was
I
gonna
do
say.
obviously
Looking at
love.
that fight, you like you said, you weren't pulling the trigger. You definitely weren't as aggressive as you typically are when you get inside the cage, and you land combinations, or even if you land one punch, you're usually following it up with a few more. And that fight seemed to be like just one shot and done.
Yeah, and then thinking that like slightly avoiding or catching things on my gloves was a positive thing. If I literally had just like hit my initial shot, avoided maybe one or two, and then hit three more, that's
Yeah,
the difference between me winning and losing. And that's something that I usually feel like I do when I do inspiring and that kind of thing. But for whatever reason that day, I just did not pull that trigger, and it was really frustrating to watch. And it was almost frustrating to be in there. It was like what some people say. I was in autopilot. I was almost looking at myself from a a third perspective, and I was watching myself not pull the trigger and not do what I needed to do to win, and I almost couldn't even light the fire. And I mean, my corner is great, and I really appreciate James that was cornering me at that time, but even he couldn't like bring it out in me as well, you know, like he couldn't. He was like, you know, you've got to do more, and
Yeah.
I kind of, it wasn't that I wasn't listening, but I just couldn't even pull that out of me that day, and I do think it was just because like I was like, well, I don't want to get hit in the eye, so at that time, but I guess we're in a different stage now, and luckily for that reason, I have definitely learned the lesson that I needed to learn that day.
But yeah, which is good because you're obviously and at least taking something away from it, and you're understanding that that's why you didn't pull the trigger, or at least hopefully that's why you didn't pull the trigger. But
Yeah,
you as we said, you've competed against Sinead before. You beat her by doctor stoppage at the end of the first round, which is obviously the case because you were pulling the trigger in that fight and throwing hands. I looked at the Bellator rankings just before we hopped on here, and it was really weird. Now, obviously, the promotion didn't take anything away from you with that loss to Diana Silva because you're fighting the number 3 ranked person in the Bellator featherweight rankings, but they stopped the rankings in the featherweight division at 6 on the website, and I was sort of surprised by that. But when you heard that you were going to be fighting Sinead, what was the mindset, and what were you thinking when you heard her name? You know, is someone you had fought before?
I was definitely excited. I mean, it has been offered to me in the past, but at a bad time during the pandemic and at a time that didn't necessarily serve me any purpose. Whereas this time round, I think this is like the perfect time for us to fight, the perfect time for us to test our growth in those 4.5 years and see how far we've come, and if you know we've become the more dynamic fighter, or who's going to basically showcase the talents better in a sense. And I obviously she's got that number 3 next to her name as well, which just adds a little bit of motivation for me to want to, you know, take it away from her and gain all that momentum back that I lost from these injuries, from the pandemic, from things that I've definitely taken responsibility for, but at the same time I've also had some outside factors that have affected my momentum over the last few years. So I am obviously extremely excited. I know that this is a fight that she's wanted for a very long time. Of course, like same as me, I've obviously wanted to do better off my losses and stuff. That's just natural. But for us to meet again and to meet in Dublin, when she has that 3 in front of her name, and when the division is sort of ever changing, like you're saying, it's really exciting.
Definitely is. And you mentioned Dublin there. Pretty cool to be on that card because typically the Bellator Dublin cards are the biggest of the year. You got a stacked card top to bottom. There's a local guy from up here in Vancouver who lives in Vegas now, Jeremy Kennedy, co-main event on the card. We got you on the card. And how does it feel to fly over to Dublin and get to showcase your skills over there? Because the crowd and the fans are pretty crazy.
Yeah, so all I keep hearing is how phenomenal the crowd is, which is definitely one of the things I'm most excited for. If it's anything, you know, to do with Connor and what he's built for the MMA scene over there, then I can't imagine how exciting it's going to be and what the atmosphere is going to be like. But as well, like I've almost moved further away now that I'm in New Zealand. I'm
Yeah.
further away from there, but um, looking at my flights and stuff, I'm almost like this is basically the same amount of time that it takes me to get to Connecticut or the East Coast and stuff like that, which I'm familiar with anyway. So it's kind of, I'm like still super excited. I've lived in Scotland before, so I'm not unfamiliar with the UK and I guess that kind of side of the world. Obviously, Dublin isn't part of the UK, but just being there, that side, you know, all the way over there, that a lot of people probably haven't even had the opportunity to go to if they're in Oceania or New Zealand. I kind of know what to expect. I know what the environment's probably going to be like. I just think the people are going to be a little bit different, a little bit more exciting as well, and just crazy, which is going to make for an awesome trip and another, you know, adventurous thing in my 28-year-old life, which I get to add to the resume and tell stories about. So here we go
Definitely.
again.
When did you live back there or over there in the UK?
So at the end of 2017, probably for like 3 months, and then another 3 months during during around the fringe time, so like June
Yeah.
to August-ish, 2018.
And you were training back there?
Yeah, so I went straight from Thailand, but my ex-partner was from there, so we ended up
Okay.
I ended up going there for his birthday, and then we just didn't leave. I missed my flight back, and we just stayed there for a little bit. It was just better for us at the time, and we were kind of nomading it a little bit and traveling a lot. So yeah, we lived there for a little bit, and then came back, and then went back again at like a nicer time of the year, which was really cool. So I got to experience both seasons in a sense
Yeah.
as well.
And you mentioned that you will be flying over there. Obviously, the crowd is going to be crazy, but you're going to be stepping into enemy territory. Now, someone who's from, Auckland or Australia, wherever you're from over there, right now, Auckland, but you're known to step into enemy territory and not fighting in front of your home crowd, basically. So, what's it going to be like fighting in front of Sinead's crowd?
Yeah, obviously it's something I'm very familiar with. The underdogness is something that is literally every single fight the same thing. So that's not necessarily unfamiliar, but I do think the intensity of the crowd is going to be different. I know even when we fought the first time, there was a lot of people trying to comment or troll or message and stuff, and that was always like it was cool to see, to be honest. I just love the enthusiasm that they have and how much they back their fighters. I think it's sort of like American, similar to Americans, and how they get behind their sports people, whether it be football or whatever. I think it's that same thing. And honestly, I mean, one positive as well is that I've now fought Sinead and Leah, and during that time and exposure to that side of the world, I think I've gained a few fans, which has been cool. But at the same time, I love that they're going to back her, of course. I love that I'm going into enemy territory. I'm going over there with the best coach in the world, from fighting out of the best gym in the world. And I mean, it couldn't be better. And I'm representing someone like Polynesia, Maori culture, New Zealand, Australia, everything. I have so much kind of on my back that's given me that strength to just ride in there and blow the party up. I'm so sorry, guys, but it's just gonna have to happen.
When do you head overseas?
Next Friday I'm gonna leave. Try to get there a little bit early because I know how far away it is.
Yeah, definitely. Blow the party up is what you're gonna do. Now this weekend we obviously have Alexander Volkanovski fighting. I gotta ask you about it.
Of course.
He's going into it. He's the champ, lighter weight class. The guy's fought at every weight class. It seems like he's, coming from the rugby field at this massive size that he was. People think that Islam, yeah, he is the betting favorite, but people are thinking, he might be able to just walk all over Alex Volkanovski. What do you have to say to those people?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are going to be surprised this weekend. It's a 4-1 favorite. I think I just got told, which I was really surprised about. The man has the number one pound for pound in front of his name. There's absolutely no way it's going to be a walkover. And even more so, I think a lot of people are going to be surprised about how much extra motivation this has given Alex, having a new opportunity to be a double champ, going to such a stacked division. A lot of people have been double champ or have been double champ, but not a lot of people have kind of faced the pound for pound number two being the pound for pound number one. That's a first. There's a lot of firsts here, and Alex always talks about legacy. And if you don't think the man's like driven or the way he trains, the way he is as a human being is just next level. You can tell he's in that 1 percentile of greatness, and I think this weekend will just solidify that even more so.
I think having a guy like Craig Jones in his corner as jiu-jitsu coach is awesome for one, but I
Yeah.
think I think the fact that he's able to put that pressure on him a lot like Islam is going to try to do is going to help immensely for Volk.
Yes, I think so too. I mean, he not only has a solid corner, but he has a solid network of support everywhere. I mean, he did a little bit in Bangtao. Those guys have been super familiar with him back in his Tiger Muay Thai days, and now obviously the Hickman Bros have gone over to Bangtao. Frankie is always over there with him. Obviously, we know how phenomenal Hickman Bros wrestling is. He comes to City Kickboxing when he can. Izzy and that are over there supporting him. Everyone is behind him, but these are not just like average Joe people. These are the best of the best from Oceania. And we all have faith in him for good reason because he is the man. And when I say that, if anyone says anything bad about Alex Volkanovski, they haven't met the guy and they don't know him. So that's like a testament to who he is as a person and his integrity that he will be able to showcase on the weekend.
Now, you moved down to Auckland full time here. Didn't make the trip over to stateside in order to do your training camp this time. Why is that?
I just I enjoyed all my time that I spent over in the US, absolutely. But this is one of those moves that I've been trying to do for a very long time. I've always wanted to come back to New Zealand, and especially now with a gym like City Kickboxing, it just made sense. And I finally made the move. Obviously, the pandemic sort of cleared away, and I was able to come back in without issue and kind of quarantining and all that sort of stuff. So now that I've made it, it's been something on my mind. And I came and visited a couple of months ago. I just knew this was exactly where I needed to be. And since the fight is in obviously Dublin and it's not in the US, then it doesn't really matter where I train. And I just have such a great team here and great coaching and attention that I'm getting from that coaching that it just made sense to stay here, no matter what the flights or extra travel time was going to be. This is the best place for me.
You said that maybe, 3, 4 months you might be able to deal with a contact or something like that rather than the glasses. I don't know what that means for the rest of the year in terms of fighting, but before I let you go here, I wanted to ask, this fight's in February. How active would you like to be in 2023?
I want to be the most active I've been in the last 5 years. This is my 8th fight with Bellator. We're obviously getting it done pretty early in the year, being February. So I'm really hoping to get another 2 in before the end of the year. It might be reaching, like if I can get 4, I'd be happy to do 4. I want to even see if I can turn it around for April in Hawaii again. I know obviously Polynesia loves me. I want to just be back in there and make up for all this lost time, especially being in such a solid place, in such a phenomenal place for my growth and everything. I think that's a perfect place for me to be this active and surrounded by everyone else who's super active. We have such a big team that's constantly obviously training and fighting. So I think it's perfect for me to just like be within that momentum and try to get as many as I can this year.
Finally, you said you're fighting obviously enemy territory. You said there's been trash talk in the past with people like this coming from social media. So for those people from social media that may have seen you in your last fight, not the Janay Harding we know, what do you have to say to them? Shut them up.
I don't even need to shut you guys up. I welcome it. I welcome all of the support that she can get as well. And I would be wrong to stop anyone from to supporting their country person, especially from a small place like Ireland. There's not a lot of people on the scene that are representing that tiny part of the world. So I definitely welcome as much support as I can. And if that support is in the way of trolling, then sure, like it is what it is. And I'm even more excited to, hopefully convince a few people and prove a few people wrong that I am also talented. I think that's what happened with the last fight. I think a lot of people sort of underestimated me and had a lot of faith in Sinead, which is understandable. But I still managed to come out on top, and for that reason, I ended up with a lot of new fans. So I think that will happen again this time, and you can support your own person while supporting some of the people that they've fought as well. There's never too much room for that.
Yeah, speaking of trash talk, before I let you go here and trolling and whatnot, can you recall like one of your favorite troll pieces that someone has sent you, or something disturbing, or just something that someone has sent you that you've been like, either, oh, that's good, or like, what the fuck?
I really just remember from the last fight, I think because I'd only had one fight with Bellator, so I was fairly early in my career, so I didn't even really have that many fights anyway. A lot of the comments were like, always bet against the pretty girl, or like you're gonna get your face beaten in and all sorts of stuff. And I was like, you guys realize that aesthetics don't translate to talent? Like that's not how it works. Like that's not how the world works. Like just because you're born looking a certain way doesn't mean you're born pretentious. Like that doesn't necessarily make any sense. And especially from people who didn't know me and didn't know my story, I guess, or like I don't know. It's like they thought that I grew up rich or something. Like I don't know, but I was like, oh, just because I look a certain way doesn't mean that I am a certain way. And for that reason, I think it was like more exciting to get the win.
Definitely. All right. Well, you'll be fighting, as we said, Dublin, Ireland, February 25th against Sinead Kavanagh. I'll give you the floor. Thank anybody you want. If you have any sponsors, any coaches, anybody that you want to give the shout out to, Janay, the floor is yours.
just a big thank you to my teammates and my coaches at City Kickboxing. Eugene Behrman has put his relentless amount of time and effort into me, all the while looking after these guys that are going to fight on UFC 284 this weekend. And as usual, big thank you to my friends and family for supporting me. My mom, who's as usual always stressed out in another country somewhere while I chase this crazy dream of mine. And to all the sponsors that make my life easier, including Combat, CMBT, Sweat Deck, Hane Lawyers is jumping on for this one as well. Ruka, as usual, and everyone that backs me. You guys know who you are. And thank you to everyone that tunes in, follows me, and supports me. I really genuinely appreciate it, as usual.
You've got a slew of support. Wow, my camera's out of focus like crazy there, but you got a slew of support. Cannot wait to see you get back inside the cage. Hopefully 2023 brings you wealth, happiness, all of the above, since, you know, you said maybe you didn't grow up rich and loaded and whatnot. But
Yeah.
hopefully 2023 brings you more than one fight, maybe more than two fights. Hopefully that you're the most active of your career this year. I hope everything goes as planned, and I can't wait to see you get back in there, Janay.
That sounds great. I appreciate your support as usual, Jeremy, and I'll see you for the next one.
Hopefully post-fight. Hopefully we have a good one
Yes.
post-fight.
Let's
All
do
right,
one
take her
post-fight.
easy.